Sahad is a municipality in the department of Quetzaltenango. It is in western Guatemala, in the area where the Maya Ixchel language is predominantly spoken. It is well known for being one of the richest meeting places for many cultures, including international ones, that are drawn to the intense production of textiles and the traditional Maya attire of countless regions and communities. Archaeological finds identify it as an ancient settlement with origins earlier than 250 BC. The Popol Vuh, translated by Adrián Inés Chávez, refers to it as Sacaha and Sacaha, which means bitter white water. Other translations refer to it as white year water. This place is home to Pedro Garcia, lifelong weaver, Sebastiana Batz, and their family. This family of weavers will guide us through the process of weaving the skirts, or cortes, on the Treadle loom. Treadle begins the process that starts with loose yarns, called strands, and ends with weaving on the Treadle loom. The first step of this rich process is reeling. This is the term used for transferring the yarn, which comes in skeins, to the cañones, which is a name given to the cones on which the yarn is wound and that facilitate moving onto the second step, warping. The reel is a simple wooden structure placed on a wooden base, used to arrange the yarns to make balls or cones.
Vamos a poner 40 cañones, que serían, por eso están lo que le conté el otro día, la separación de 10, 20, 30 y 40. Todo esto nos separa.
Warping is a step that begins with placing the cones in the creel to transfer the yarns to the warper. Warping arranges the yarns while making the cross, whose main function is to separate the even yarns from the odd ones and to keep them in place during the weaving process. The creel is a frame that was originally made of wood and is currently made of metal. Up to 60 cones or bobbins are placed in it with rods to secure and allow them to turn easily. A crucial moment is when the strands are arranged, forming the cross, which will order them. The cross is achieved with a swift hand movement that is learned with time and practice. After that, the warper begins to turn. Countless turns help order the strands in large, organized circles. Every cycle travels a warper from top to bottom. At the end of each one, the strands are tied and cut to begin a new cycle by once again making the cross. This mechanism requires skilled handling to harmoniously order the strands. The result of this step is a bundle of strands wrapped on the warper and ready to be lifted.
Luego sacamos y le hacemos la famosa cadena que se le dice. Aquí ya quedó la cruz hecha. Aquí ya no hay ningún problema, ya se puede diferenciar las hebras, hebra por hebra, para que no se enreden.
Lifting is when the strands are picked up from the warper and are arranged in the form of chains that prevent the strands from tangling and make their transfer to the loom easier. Inadequate handling could spoil the time, work, and yarns spent up to this point.
Esto se levanta diferente a la labor. Que es donde va a ser el principio de empezar a enrollar la tela. Hacemos un nudito aquí. Este va a ser el final, pero como aquí quedó al revés, le damos vuelta al hilo, a la cadena, y empezamos ya a levantar listo para complementar el jaspe. Como ven, este va a ser el principio de la plegada que le decimos, que es la pate guide. Le damos una su vuelta para no perder la madera. Lo agarramos.
This yarn chain is used to make the base of the cortes. It will join the ikat on the loom to produce the striking cortes that can be seen in many places around Guatemala. The treadle loom is a weaving instrument that is operated through pedals and is used to create garments such as huipiles, fabric for skirts or cortes, and shawls or perrajes, among others. It arranges the warp vertically and the weft horizontally. It has a complex structure that requires a combination of abilities and skills to handle it adequately. Pedro, his family, and friends prepare the loom inside his house to demonstrate how it is used in the process of weaving and the specific steps it involves. Raking is a necessary step to avoid tangles in the strands. It is important to make sure the strands are smoothed out before taking them to the loom. The rake is the instrument used to untangle and align the yarns before they are taken to the loom. It is a meticulous task that needs to be carried out in a considerably large space to stretch out the yarns and use the rake like a giant comb. Plegado is an activity that requires skill to handle the rake and to control the strength applied through it. It is used to align the strands, untangle them, make sure they do not have any irregularities, and to create the roll that is placed in front of the loom.
Darle figura al corte.
Sí, pues.
Para apartar lo que es el negro con el casco.
Juntarlos.
Sí. Y ahí está la cruz, mire, para eso sirve la cruz.
Va, entonces mire, aquí están las dos partes, va. Entonces yo lo que voy a hacer ahorita es juntar todo esto.
Ajá.
Va, empecemos.
Aquí, a ver.
Avetillar consists in setting up the fabric on the loom. It is a delicate activity that joins the individual strands of the roll of yarn that is already in the loom with those of the next one. This allows the weaving process to continue and produce a seamless fabric that will later be used to make cortes. This requires a level of skill that is achieved with time and practice. It can be a prolonged activity depending on the weaver's abilities. Weaving is the final step in this complex process. Using the treadle or foot loom, as it is also known, is a highly demanding art. It requires brain motor coordination to handle the loom with its rhythmic movements produced with the feet, which make the wood and yarns move, and the necessary hand coordination to move the shuttles, which are those small wooden pieces carrying the colorful yarns that travel from one side to the other to give shape to the pre-established design. The sound of the loom speaks for itself. It gathers the painstaking and specialized work of many people who have contributed to the pieces that now reach the workshops where they will take their final form, and where all the care taken in the previous steps will produce cortes that will not only be visually beautiful, but are also an unquantifiable heritage transformed into an identity trait. For anyone who approaches a weaving workshop for the first time, this is a spectacular synchrony. It is, however, an everyday event for countless weavers who have been doing this work for their whole lives, with mastery as much as with modesty. This is the result of the sum of steps and skills of the collaborative labor of many women and men who through their work earn a living and reaffirm traits of their identity. Tube-shaped or pleated corte, a traditional skirt worn wrapped around the waist by indigenous women. The fabric to make this garment is generally woven on the treadle loom, though in some communities it is still made on the backstrap loom. The length of the corte varies. Sometimes it is sewn on the edge of the warp to give it a tubular shape. Distinctive cortes differ from one community to another in their decorative figures, the way they are worn, and the materials and techniques used to make them. If it is an Ixchel corte, its designs can be made with the weft and sometimes also with the warp, or they can be created in both directions. Another variant is the morga. Little research has been done on cortes in Guatemala, except for an initial effort carried out as part of a study by the Ixchel Museum and documented in a manuscript pending publication.